Live from Orlando, Florida, you're listening to the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, the voice of Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, brought to you by the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network. We're your host, Al, myself, Anthony. Today is Friday, July 21st, and we are done with the NBA Summer League. We are done with what might be the biggest trade of the season that we've done. We don't know yet. We're still trying to figure that out. And we are completely done with all the madness, man. So not a whole lot to talk about in today's episode, but we still managed to fill the podcast up. We ended up taking some mailbag questions from our listeners, so we're going to be going over that. But before we get into it, I do want to touch base on the NBA Summer League. The Magic go absolutely winless, and I want to get your thoughts on it. 0-5. Was that what you were expecting? Summer League, 0-5.
Not one bit. I think a lot of us on Twitter were like, hey, this is the year that we go for a championship in Summer League, and we're going to go the way. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think after game 1 or 2, you could tell that this roster was really, really flawed. Like outside of our guys, Jet Howard, Black, that was about it, to be honest with you. There wasn't really much talent to say that we could be looking forward to watching or that could compete with other teams. But like my biggest weakness, honestly, for the team was not having a big guy. I know we had Kai Soto out there, but he never really saw the court till the last couple of games. But we just getting out-rebounded every single game. And that ended up costing us games. So it really wasn't fun, to be honest. It was cool to watch Anthony Black and Jet Howard do their thing. But other than that, not really fun Summer League, in my opinion. How about you? Were you excited about what you saw? What were your thoughts on it?
I feel like it was very similar to last season in regards to, we only got a small glimpse of Paolo Banchero last season. We only got a small glimpse of, Jet Howard, Anthony Black this season, which kind of makes sense. You get acclimated by just getting a couple games in, get your feet wet a little bit to transition into the NBA game. That's pretty much it. Like we had one close game that went into overtime that was kind of fun, and then the last 2 games were absolutely horrendous, and it was tough to watch, especially when you don't have a horse in the race, where you had that one guy that you kind of ruined for. We traded Caleb Houston as a vet, just play a couple games and we'll keep you out. We treated Kevon Harris as a vet, we'll play you a couple games, keep you out. Same with Anthony Black and Jay Howard. So towards the end of it, you really didn't have your guy. The only people that are really watching these games are really big basketball fanatics. So you got to be a hoop watcher to really sit down and watch these games, because one, they weren't fun games to watch, and 2, you really don't know if these players are really going to have a lasting impact with your team. Yeah, they may be wearing Orlando Magic across their chest, but are these players that the Magic are really going to invest from a two-way standpoint? There's a lot of hype in wanting to see Kai Soto in there, and we finally got a chance to see him, and then he eventually got hurt, and it wasn't necessarily the best showing, even though the limited amount of time that he did play, he was able to at least kind of show his presence from a blocking standpoint to a couple quick scores, like things of that nature. So a lot of people were hyped. The fan base from the Philippines, they were really hyped to see him play finally. But other than that, I'm kind of glad that the NBA Summer League is completely over. That's just one less tick mark that we can kind of check off and go on to the next stint. I would agree with you that it was tough to watch in regards to not having a real big man. I would love to have seen that type of dynamic with Anthony Black, who high IQ playmaker. You want to be able to see that dynamic out there, but it is what it is. We wanted the Magic, right? Because we had talked about it early on. We wanted the Magic to kind of set the tone from Summer League, like go out there and win the Summer League championship, go 5-0 and kind of go that way. But it's not the way that kind of worked out, and it is what it is. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, you know what's funny though? I feel like we still have two-way roster spots available. We need I feel like we need another big guy in the roster just because if Wendell gets hurt, you're basically relying on Goga and Mo Wagner as your bigs right now. Um, so I was kind of hoping they would have a couple of big guys that they could look at and say, hey, they could be two-way players that we could sign and potentially be in the rotation if one of those guys gets hurt. So unfortunately, that didn't happen. I don't consider really DJ Wilson like a guy that has an impact on the team. That's going to be part of the roster. You never know. But in my opinion, that was kind of a letdown for me. That's a position of weakness for us. It would have been
Yep.
cool to see us go after some big guys that had a chance at least to make the roster.
Yeah, and he was a player that people were kind of watching, talking about as if he, there was a real possibility for that two-way spot, and it was a little disappointing. I was kind of hoping a little bit more, but again, it is what it is. These guys had the opportunity to play, to show out, and even if they don't get picked up by the Magic, this is one of those things where other teams are watching, and looking for opportunity to kind of fill their two-way spots. It's very similar to what happened with Kevon Harris. Kevon Harris, when we picked him up, he's playing summer league for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So that's where he caught our eye and how we were able to fill that spot. So who knows what the Magic are going to end up doing with the remaining two spots. If I am being honest, not throwing names out there, but just kind of throwing what I want to see. I agree with you. I would love for us to be able to add another big man with that two-way to, someone that we can implement. Like for example, Kevon Harris, we know that he's a guy that we can add if the Magic go through any type of injury, which that's not going to happen. The Magic are going to be completely flawless and we're not going to deal with no injury this season. I feel it in my gut. But if something were to happen, and we know that we can implement Kevon Harris, and I'm okay with that. I love him as a player. But I would like to see the Magic at least use one of those spots on the development player, someone that they consider a project. The team is already as young as can be, but we don't need to throw two-way veterans in there. I would love for them to plant a seed and kind of at least have a player that they can look at 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the Magic. Again, the center position, we really don't have like an athletic dude that can just block shots and just catch alley oops. As simple as that. Try to find someone in the summer league roster out there that fits that mold. That can be an athletic big that can come in the event that Mo Wagner, whoever it is, gets hurt. You got to play 10 minutes a night. That can fill that role and at least block some shots, catch some alley oops from the plethora of point guards that we have. That's all you have to do is run up and down the court, block shots, and catch alley-oops. As long as you do that, you should be able to get on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, happy from what I saw from Anthony Black and Jet Howard, and Kevon Harris looked like an NBA stud out there in summer league. He had no business playing out there. I will say that there was a lot of talks about Cam Whitmore as a player that fell down the NBA draft, and somebody that we had talked about as someone that we wanted the Magic to draft, and he ended up winning the Summer League MVP. Had a really, really great showing. When you see stuff like that, does it bother you? Does it bother you to see a player like Cam Whitmore that the Magic had a chance to get after, turn out to be at the very least, because we know Summer League is Summer League. It really doesn't mean anything, but from an early impression, does it bother you that the Magic may have missed out?
I'm not going to lie, it kind of does. The Magic are known to be gamblers. So they take gambles on guys like Chuma Okeke, who had a torn ACL. And they're like, hey, we can bring you to our system, allow you to get healthy, and we believe in your talent. So I don't know if the Cam Whitmore situation was more than just the knee concerns, and it was more of an interview situation where he didn't perform well in the interview on top of the injury concerns. But I got to say, man, he looked like he did in college. He was attacking the rim. He was hitting threes. He was playing really, really well. As of right now, one of the biggest steals, in my opinion, in the draft. I mean, from a top 5 pick to dropping to 20. The sucky part is we had a chance to get him at 6. We got a chance to get him at 11. We didn't. So we'll see. Who's to know how he's going to pan out? But for right now, because of all the hype that he had coming in, and so many Magic fans on Twitter wanted him. It's kind of hard to see him win the MVP in Summer League. Again, doesn't mean anything, but we wanted him. It's kind of like Grady Dick. Like, he may turn out to be a way worse player than Jet Howard. But in the moment, because he was on the board for us and we all wanted him so bad, it stinks a little bit. But down the road, we might say, oh, thank God we didn't. So for now, it does sting, but I think at the end of the day, it's all going to work out.
Yeah, that's the great thing about Summer League is that it allows for your feelings to kind of get balanced a little bit. I love Jet Howard. I love Anthony Black. I instantly fell in love with them. Just because, one, they're on a roster, and then two, I really like what they were able to bring. If you really sit back and kind of look at the way they played and how they've been integrated so far, I think they're perfect fits next to Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. If you had a player like Cam Whitmore demands the ball a lot more. You're going to take that away from Franz. You're going to take that away from Paolo. It doesn't make sense. So it makes sense that we pass on a player like Cam Whitmore. So I'm not upset about it. It is what it is. The more I look at Houston Rockets and kind of their roster, I'm still a little confused to what it is that they're doing out there. But I'm curious from a basketball fan perspective. I'm curious to see how kind of things play out over there.
I feel bad because I feel like they have some dudes that I've wanted, right? So Jalen Green, they had Jabari Smith, they have Ken Whitmore, all guys known.
It sounds like you're a Rockets fan. That's what it sounds like. It seems that way. I guess their GM has very similar taste to my taste. You and the Rockets GM, man, you guys are like two peas in a pot.
But it's funny because I feel like they're doing a poor job developing those guys. Like they added Fred VanVleet. He needs the ball in his hands. Jalen Green needs the ball in his hands. Jabari to be Jabari balled out in Summer League, right? So what does it show you? He needs the ball in his hands. Cam Whitmore needs the ball in his hands. So it's like they're building a weird roster with dudes that can put the ball in the hoop, but they need the ball in their hands. So I don't know how it's going to work out. Very talented young players. I just don't think the system is going to work out. Let's see what Udoka does, the new coach. I think he can maybe figure it out. But up until last year, it looked a little bit rough out there. Like they were just playing individual basketball. It wasn't really like, hey, we're trying to win and get better. It was just, I'm getting my 20 and calling it a night.
Yeah, not to mention they're bringing in Fred VanVleet, paid him a crazy contract. So
yep,
better them than us. Now, the Magic ended up making a little bit of news. The Magic ended up making a trade that happened randomly. The Magic traded 3 second-round picks to the Suns in exchange for a 2026 first-round pick swap. Phoenix will get the following second-round picks: Denver's 2024, 2026 least favorable of Detroit, Orlando, or Milwaukee, and 2028 Boston, if 46 and 60. Now, Phoenix already owns that pick swap with Washington in 2026. So an example that they kind of threw out there, because a lot of people were asking, and shout out to Bobby Marks for kind of simplifying this for us. But an example is if the Washington Wizards has the 10th pick, Phoenix has the 20, Orlando has 25. The Magic will now have the 20th pick in the draft, and Phoenix will get 25th. The Wizards will stay at 10. And across the 7 NBA drafts from 2024 to 2030, Orlando has 8 first-round picks and 12 second-rounders. So when you kind of think about it, what are your initial thoughts on that draft, or on that trade? Are you for it? What do you think it means? And why do you think the Magic made that trade?
It's an interesting move. First of all, major props to Anthony Parker, who we just talked about last week as a new GM of the Magic, for actually using our second round picks, right? For years, we've just been trading it for cash. That's been our MO, or a really down the road, a second round pick. So he actually put them to use. He said, hey, here's 3 of them that I have. I'll take a first round pick for it. And that's kind of what we got out of it. By 2026, I don't expect Phoenix to be really good. KD is going to be 39. I think Beal's going to be 34, 35. So the odds of Phoenix being a solid team by them are a little slim. The Wizards are just the Wizards. They're never better than 8th, 9th seed, if that. So some good potential for this to be maybe a top 20 pick. I'll take that. Why the Magic did it? It's kind of just, I think, collecting assets, man. I think they know that eventually they're going to have to consolidate this roster a little bit. And a first round pick is always more valuable than a few second round picks. So I think if they say, hey, I'm going to package a few young guys with a few picks for X player, it looks better when you say, we'll give you a first round pick in 2026 than it does. I'm going to give you 3 second round picks. I don't think it means anything for this season. I think this season the roster is set, if you ask me, unless something crazy changes between now and October. I think we're running with this. But at the deadline, next offseason, it may be useful.
Yeah, I'm okay with the move. I thought it was exciting. Anthony Parker, for this to be the first, move under his regime, I thought was pretty neat, pretty creative. Not something that you see a whole lot of, and the second round picks that the Magic are prone to not utilize. So exciting, good. We're betting on ourselves. We're pretty much saying that during that time period we're going to be better than the Phoenix Suns, and at that point you're going to have a young vet, Paolo Banchero, a young vet, Franz Wagner, and if you're able to add another first round talent to it to be able to better the roster later on, amazing. That's a bonus, and that's better for us.
Yeah, I mean, so you think about this. So we have our pick next offseason, 2024. Then we have 2 in 2025, 2 in 2026. So again, I don't think we're gonna use those picks just because we have such a young roster right now. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they decide to put them to use. We are not definitely gonna draft 5 first round picks over the next 3 years. It's just there's no room for them in the roster. So again, we keep talking about the day coming of the Magic having to make some tough decisions and finally going after maybe some big names that can help us win. Be on the lookout. This is all just collecting more and more assets to make that move.
Absolutely. Now we're going to jump into our mailbag, where we went on social media and pretty much asked what questions you guys have for us to be able to discuss here on the show. So this first one is coming from Instagram, and I'm so sorry if I don't pronounce this correctly, but is Tim Geist 13? You think I said that right?
I think you said it right.
Would you have said it the same way? Tim Geist? Geist 13?
Maybe?
Yeah, maybe. One of those. Tim Geist 13. If all players are healthy, what is your ideal rotation?
I'm going to let you go first. What you think?
Yeah, so the important thing to remember is that the reality is 12 players aren't going to be consistently playing. Eventually, if the Magic are serious about making the playoffs, we're going to have to limit that down. Normally we see sets of 8, 9-man rotation, maybe a 10. But ideally, you want there to be a spot for Jet Howard and Anthony Black. The way that the rotation is right now doesn't make it look realistic that that's going to be the case. Like you would imagine that Gary Harris 100% is going to be able to provide the ability to stretch the floor and that veteran presence that we need in order for us to be successful. Jalen Suggs, he just brings a defensive perspective that not a lot of players on our roster are able to do in the way that he is able to bring in. Cole Anthony, the same thing. So, from a rotational standpoint, I see Anthony Black, I see Jay Howard as being players that they're going to be versatile. You're not going to automatically assume that Anthony Black is only going to play the point guard. You're not going to automatically assume that Jay Howard is only going to be at the 3 spot, the 2 spot. You're going to be able to move them around. That's the whole reason why the Magic go after versatility. I think that the starting lineup is where we first got to address, because we really don't know the direction of how the Magic are going to go after, right? People are assuming it's going to be Jalen Suggs just because towards the end of the season, he leveled up a little bit. Like, we really like what we saw defensively, of course, but offensively, it looked like he was starting to get it together. But again, Gary Harris just has his way of being able to balance things out with him being a vet. And he doesn't have to be a player that he's playing, 30 minutes, on a game. So he can really split that with Jalen Suggs. So I'm curious to see kind of how that plays out. And I think that it's going to be a battle. I think training camp is going to be a great indicator. I think it's going to take a little bit for, Anthony Black and Jet Howard to get acclimated to the game, to the NBA game. I think that they'll get acclimated a lot quicker than people realize, because they're able to add a lot of value. But it's hard to say, because Magic have so much talent on this team. It really is hard. I can see a lot of players getting frustrated that there's not enough minutes. Chuma getting frustrated. I can see Cole Anthony getting frustrated. And I wouldn't blame him. What if Anthony Black comes out here and he just eats? What do you do at that point? Because you look at a player like Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony he's outspoken. He's the heart of the team. Like, you don't want a player like that to be at the end of the bench. I'm not predicting that, but these are certain turmoils that can kind of foresee happening if it ended up being that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I think pretty straightforward. The starting lineup to me, if Suggs is healthy, if Suggs shows in training camp that his shot is what it looked like towards the end of last season, Fultz, Suggs, Franz, Paolo, and Wendell. That's the starting lineup to me, day one. The bench, though, is where it gets a little bit funky to me. I think, in my opinion, what I would like to see game one of the new season, I'm actually going to play Black at the point guard position. So I want him to have the ball in his hands. I want him to be the one that creates offense for others. I want to see Cole Anthony a little bit more off ball, or maybe you run some ISO plays for him, but Cole at the shooting guard position, a little bit undersized, but that's what he does. He's a scorer. Gary Harris is going to be the shooter in that lineup. Joe Ingles as a backup 4. So 2 shooters, 2 vets off the bench. And again, we talked about it a few weeks ago. Jonathan Isaac is my 5 right now. We didn't sign a guy that to me can win the backup 5 position. But if Jai is healthy, he's got to play. So where do you play him? In my opinion, that is the backup 5 right now. Just because you're paying Ingles and Harris a lot of money to be vets, to be shooters, they got to play. So in that scenario, to me, you have Jet Howard, Chuma Okeke, Mo Wagner, Caleb Houston, and Goga not getting minutes day one. I saw on Twitter 2 people talking about us running with an 8 to 9 man rotation. I don't think so, man. With the talent that we have, we're going to have to go 10 deep, which, to your point, some guys won't be happy because minutes are being, distributed between 10 players instead of 9 or 8. So that to me is what I ideally would like to see. I like the flexibility between shooting, defense, young guys, vets, that 10-man rotation presents. But to your point, if in training camp some of these guys show up and Jet Howard beats Gary Harris for whatever reason, in both sides, defensively and offensively, then give him the minutes. It is what it is. Or if Chuma comes out and simply balls out and looks better than Joe Ingles, hey, go do the right thing there. But I think initially that's what I would do. What are your thoughts on that 10-man rotation?
Yeah, I mean, that's the tough part. Honestly, even though we spent a lot of money on Joe Ingles, I can actually see us not playing him. Like, he's getting paid. He's a vet, 35 plus years old. He's not as young as he used to be. He does provide the veteran presence. He can shoot, but we're paying him a lot of money. If he doesn't play, I don't think, from a competitive standpoint, I'm sure he wants to play, but if he doesn't play, I don't think it's going to rock the boat too much. Like, I really don't think that. I think Jonathan Isaac, it would be hard for me to see him as our second string center. But who knows, man? Maybe there's a plan to kind of preserve him a little bit, and if we can do that at putting him at the 5, then sure. I see Mo Wagner playing. I do. I think he brings a dynamic that's a little different than we have on the roster. I think the Magic like seeing Mo Wagner and Franz Wagner on the court together. I think that, again, that's a different dynamic that we have. Coach Mo's, he's got his work cut out for him. There's a lot of players that can't play on this roster where we're deep in a sense. I'm not saying that our second string is starting on any other team in the East, but there's definitely talent out there.
Yeah, I'll for sure take our backup unit, our bench unit over Phoenix. That's for sure. Quick follow-up question to you. So Jet Black, I'm sorry, I keep saying that. Anthony
Jet
Black. Jet Black. Anthony and Black. Who to you is that point guard? We've seen plenty of people on social media talk about Black playing the backup 3 position because he is tall enough. He can play defense on any one of the court. Where do you want to see Anthony Black play day one? You want to see him as a backup 1, or do you think he should be a wing player?
With Anthony Black, you got to put the ball in his hand. He's got to be the playmaker. That's what he's great at. The reason why he's brought on is because he has high IQ. He's a playmaker. He's the type of player that makes people around him better. And what better way to do that than at the helm at the point guard position? Cole Anthony is such an offensive threat that he would do well at the second ball handler. He would do it amazingly well. And the fact that Anthony Black is a bigger guard, they would balance each other out. So I think that Anthony Black and Cole Anthony, the Anthony tandem, for a lot of reasons that I won't get too deep into, I think that they would be extremely successful. We need to come out with some type of nickname that's gotta happen. Something on the line of Anthony would be awesome. But yeah, it's I want to see how this plays out. Like, I want to see how many minutes Jet Howard is really going to play, because that's really my concern in regards to minutes. But I do think that, Joe Ingles, if he doesn't get his minutes, I think we're going to be okay. I think he's going to be okay. And again, it's not going to rock the boat too much. Now, Carter_Reimer on Instagram asks, what are your expectations for Anthony Black?
Number one, I think he plays day one. We've seen some people say that maybe not. He's going to have to fight for his minutes, and that he's going to have to basically not play maybe much early on in the season. Man, you're the sixth pick in the draft. We got to get you out there. You do things on the court that we need, and that is playmaking, that is play defense. So I can see the value in him playing day one. I would like to see that happen. So number one, he is going to play day one. Other than that, I would just say be cautious with our expectations. I kind of compare him a little bit to Jalen Suggs. He was a great prospect in college. He showed a lot of great things in college. The shot's not quite there. He's athletic enough. He can play really, really good defense. So defensively, I think he's ready to be an NBA player today. Offensively is where we need to be kind of patient. Like, if he's scoring 6 points a night initially, 5 points a game, it's okay. That's going to come later on. What I want to see from him is that aggressiveness, the hustle, the rebounding, grabbing 14 rebounds in summer league. Do the same thing for us. Go in a game and grab double digits in rebound. Get 5 steals in one game. So kind of that Jalen Suggs role that he played as a rookie and sophomore, where he was more of a defensive minded guy. Let the offense come to you. That's my expectation for him. So very easy expectations. I don't think I expect much from him. Just help us win games. I think by doing those little things, he will do so.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I have no expectations for Jet Howard, no expectations for Anthony Black. To me, they're bonuses. Like, our main guys are going to be our main guys, and I think that whatever value that they're able to bring to the table, again, it's a bonus for us. Do I think that Anthony Black has a big, do they have big plans for Anthony Black in our future? I believe 100% yes. The dynamic of being able to have a 6'7" point guard to play alongside Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero is absolutely ridiculous. So as of right now, the ball is in Markelle Fultz's hand, but who knows what the future looks like, and we are prepared for that future, whatever it may be. The expectation for Anthony Black should be for him to get better every single day. He's not a project. I don't see him as a project. I think that he's able to provide value right away. Don't expect for him to average, 20, 25 points a game. We got spoiled with that with Paolo Banchero last season. We got spoiled. Don't expect that. But I do expect for him to lead in a way where we're going to see better play from Cole Anthony. We're going to see better play from, knock on wood, God willing, Jonathan Isaac. We're going to see all these players, our second unit, drastically improve, because that's the reason why we brought him here. We brought him here to be able to make people around him better. And I think that should be the expectation. The expectation is, can he really hone in and focus and become better at the one thing that he's great at? And that's making other people play better, raising other people's ceiling. That's all we've heard about since we've drafted him. Now is time to really see that happen. All right.
Yeah.
This next question comes from KG33 Magic. Who do you see having a breakout season? Bench players only.
So if I go with my rotations, and Gary Harris is coming off the bench, I'm gonna say he is the one that's gonna have a breakout season for us. He is due some health, man. He's always been dealing with injuries in his time with the Magic, somewhat with Denver as well. If he can stay healthy in a smaller role, where he's only playing 20 minutes a night, 25. Um, it's a contract year for him. Don't forget that. So he's trying to get paid by us or by anyone the following offseason or get traded to a good team at the trade deadline. So I think he's going to have a breakout season for us. And another player to keep an eye on, if I can choose two for a second, it would be J.I. I think that what we saw from him in the limited games, only 11, right? It wasn't much. But man, I got to tell you, I get the ability to go to the games and just the energy that he brings, not only to our team, but to the fan base. I don't care what you think of him off the court, but when he is on the court, what he does, the little things, the steals, the blocks, the boxing out, which seems like a skill that we just couldn't teach to Mo Bamba and to some of our big guys. He's got that down. So those little things that he brings to the table makes us a much better team. So I think that if he can stay healthy, man, he's going to make a big impact on our team and have a really good season. So to me, those are two guys to keep an eye on, Gary Harris and J.I. How about you?
Yeah, I think the Jonathan Isaac pick is interesting because the big talk last season was, can Jonathan Isaac be the same Jonathan Isaac from before? He's been injured for so long. He hasn't played basketball in so long. You know, can he still be that same player? Well, damn it, man, we saw a little bit. It may have been just 10, 11 minutes a game, but we saw enough to be like, oh,
It's
okay.
there.
So yeah, it's definitely there. So it's not talent, it's not will, it's not effort. Is can my man stay healthy? And the great thing about this season is that there's no more we're not preserving him anymore. Like there's not babying around Jonathan Isaac anymore. Is if you're healthy to play, you're going to play. I'm not saying that, I don't care what happens. You go out there and play 30 minutes. Like that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is this is a season to really find out. This is where we kind of put everything out on the table. And now it's time to earn your contract. If he can stay healthy, easily 100%, not even close as Jonathan Isaac, from a breakout season. If he can stay healthy, I don't, how if he can be what we saw last season on a consistent basis and shots are hitting, like I don't want to talk about adding him to the starting lineup because I don't even know what the hell that would look like. But you would have to have that conversation at that point. You just would have to. Now you can easily kind of say, well, we want to take it easy with him, so he'll just continue to come off the bench. And I think he would be okay with that. I think Jonathan Isaac would be more than okay with that, as long as he's able to stay healthy for a long period of time, because that's what he's proving. It's not talent doesn't need to be proved. Defensively, we know that he's still that guy. What he needs to prove is, can he stay healthy? But if we're kind of pushing Jonathan Isaac off to the side, I think it's got to be Cole Anthony. I think that if I'm Cole Anthony, I am pissed that we brought in another point guard. I'm going to show you that I'm nice. Like, you guys keep talking to me about, like, I'm not the starting point guard on the NBA team. You keep saying that I'm six man. You keep saying this and that. All right, well, let me show you. I think that now we're going to start seeing a more veteran like Cole Anthony, and I think that in terms of the second unit, the player that's going to break out, the ball is going a lot of that pressure is going to fall on Cole Anthony to produce for us offensively. It's just going to be that way, and I think that he's definitely someone to look at. From a leadership standpoint, I think there's no debate that he is easily the most vocal player that we have on our team, and if he's able to lead, from the second unit, I think that element in itself is what will make the Orlando Magic so dangerous. If you can find a way to have your second unit perform just as well, or if not better than your first unit, you take Paolo Banchero out the game, Franz Wagner out the game, and these are the guys that you're bringing in, and it's still causing havoc for the other team. That's what's going to allow for you to start winning games. And I think that that's the part that, people are going to really, really feel excited about. When you start seeing your second unit come come in the game and you're excited about those things, it's really where you start seeing the level of your talent of your team really skyrocket.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool storylines, with our bench unit in particular. So to your point, Cole Anthony, he's in a contract year. He's due an extension. So he's going to be coming in hungry. Whether he gets paid or not, he's going to have to either prove that contract or earn that contract that he's going to be due the following offseason. J.I., don't forget, if he gets hurt again, we can pretty much cut him before January. I forgot the date, but it's in January sometime. He's only guaranteed $7 out of $19 million. And then after that, nothing is guaranteed. So in a way, his career is on the line this upcoming season. As crazy as that may sound, it is true. And then Gary Harris, another guy that's a free agent at the end of the season. So he's also trying to get paid. So some guys that need to have a big, big season for us, ideally, they all come off the bench and they all come hungry enough to your point, keep us at a high level playing when Paolo gets a break, Franz gets a break. It's going to be crucial. So that'll be fun to watch as the season plays out next year.
Yep. This next question comes from Twitter, Anthony Unwin, where he asks, do you see the offensive sets changing much this season now that Paolo Banchero is established? We supposedly adding shooting, etc. So what do you think? Do you think that our offensive sets will now change year two for Paolo Banchero?
I don't think so. Maybe to some degree, but I think that the way that mostly like to play his offense is very fluid, is very fast paced, motion offense. So there's not really a lot of like set plays being called for, let's say, Paolo in the corner isolation. You don't see that very much when we're flowing. Now, if we're struggling to score 5 possessions in a row, things like that, I can see where they say, hey, Paolo, come on, we need to go to the basket and get us some easy baskets here. I do hope we see a lot more of Paolo and Franz pick and rolls, where Franz has the ball in his hands, coming off the pick, Paolo's cutting to the basket or popping for a three, and vice versa, where Franz has the ball in his hands and Paolo's setting the pick. I think that is a deadly combination for us, especially with some shooters around them, where you cannot really double team one or collapse on them. So if you can put in a lineup of, I don't know, Cole Anthony, Jet Howard, Gary Harris, and even Wendell is okay. He can shoot it a little bit, but put shooters with that pick and roll situation, that can be a really, really deadly offensive tool that we really haven't really exploited too much.
Paolo Banchero is the face of the Orlando Magic. If you don't think that, plays are going to be made for him specifically, these teams that will play us, they're going to be creating ways to slow down Paolo Banchero, because if Paolo Banchero is going, it's going to open up for everyone else. But I think that, there's a direction with what the Magic are trying to do. Paolo Banchero, playmaker. Franz Wagner, playmaker. Anthony Black, playmaker. Jay Howard, playmaker. There's an assumption that these players are being brought in because they're big, they're versatile, they're playmaking. There's high IQ basketball. There's going to be a lot of those motion sets. So there's going to be a lot of ball passing and getting other people involved. And, there'll be nights that, Paolo Banchero is not going to have it going. Well, hi, Franz Wagner. Hi, Anthony Black, Cole Anthony. It's going to be by committee. It's going to be by team. Paolo Banchero can, he's going to carry us statistically. That will happen. I see him continuing to lead us offensively. But best believe that, other people are going to eat also. So it's exciting, man. This team, they can go a lot of different directions. If there's one thing that the front office has done and done well, is that they said, here, Coach Mose, this is your full arsenal of ammunition. You decide what weapons you want to use to go to war, because you have, full inventory to decide on. So that's the fun part.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big season for Coach Mosley. I know we talk about the players a lot and the lineups that we have and the great talent that we have. But this is year 3 out of 4 for Coach Mosley. And it's a big year. I think we're expected to win for the first time since he's gotten here. We made a major leap last season. We won, 14 more games the year before. Awesome. You got to back it up now and make another leap. I'm not saying 12 more games or 14 more games, but you got to get close to 40, if not over 40 this season in order to stay safe in your job. I like Mosley. I think he's going to be here for years to come, but if by any chance you cannot make these young guys produce at a high level, it's going to be a tough summer for him too. So it's going to be, again, it's a big year for a lot of people in this team, which is going to help us, I think, perform better than everyone out there thinks.
And that's the thing. I feel like he will have the team perform because the team wants to perform for him. You know, we've talked about this in other episodes where, you know, there's time and time after again, you know, our players are going on, you know, podcasts and they're talking about, you know, how fortunate they are to have, you know, a coach like Mose, and they know that, you know, they can't take it for granted and they need a win. They need a win for him because they need to protect Coach Mose at all costs. We heard Gary Harris, Markelle Fultz, they all talk this way. All the vets are talking this way. So it's the hard part is done, which I think is, you know, getting the buy-in. Now that you have the buy-in, you got to take advantage. And now you have to produce. And the Magic have showed Coach Mose produced last season. It's not his fault that we didn't have a point guard for a majority of the beginning of the season.
True.
You know, he finally was able to get the team going once Markelle Fultz was brought back into the mix. We started winning basketball games. Now let's see what that looks like with a full, healthy roster next season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, man. I did want to address this one really quickly before we wrap up. Someone on Instagram, Chimmy737, I thought it was a really cool question because it made me think when I saw it. Really quickly, who do you see as our long-term shooting guard? Is it Jet Howard? Is it Jalen Suggs? What do you think?
Man. So from an identity standpoint, it would be awesome to have Jet Howard completely like go off and become, you know, that to kind of steal that spot just from, you know, and same with Anthony Black to be able to have, you know, 6'7", 6'8", 6'10", 6'10", 6'10". That's a big lineup that people don't want to deal with. And we saw his ability to create his own shot. We saw how swift he is with the basketball. You know, Jet Howard is someone that can really has a great shot at being a very, very good basketball player. Just, man, the way that we've seen Jalen Suggs defend the basketball at such an elite level, it almost gives you chills in a sense because, you know, it's fun. Like defensively, it's fun watching him just create havoc on the defensive end. Just really like get into it and get people flustered and seeing these key players not have a great basketball game because you got Jalen Suggs guarding them. I am looking forward to watching Jalen Suggs and Anthony Black play basketball together at some capacity to defend. You know, offensively, it might be a struggle. I'm really hoping that Jalen Suggs, you know, offensively, you know, we see a jump this season, but defensively, it's gonna be fun. Just imagine Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Isaac, you know, Anthony Black defensively. My goodness,
scary.
Like that's we talk about death lineups, like size wise. I get they wouldn't necessarily match up with the death lineup in that capacity, but defensively, man, if we need a stop, we have guys that we can go to. Like, who do you want to throw out there? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the part that's fun. So long term, you know, I find it very, very hard for Jalen Suggs to lose it just because of how elite he is defensively. Unless Jet Howard is out there looking like Ray Allen, you know, that's the only other way that I would see, you know, Jalen Suggs kind of losing it.
I think it's going to depend a lot on Jalen Suggs' shot. How can he develop? He took a major jump last season. He jumped, I think, 12, 13%, his three-point percentage. So major leap in one off season. We know he's working hard this offseason on it as well. So say he goes to 35, 36% three-point percentage. That's massive. That's going to get you on the court simply because you can play really, really good defense. And now you're showing that you can shoot it as well. You have to be guarded out there. And the fact that he is so good and fast at getting to the hoop as well, you're deadly. That's what we thought we were going to be getting as the fifth pick in the draft a couple of years ago. But to your point, Jet Howard, if he comes in and he's showing us, you know, I'm that guy that can shoot the ball and demands that attention and takes that double team away from Paolo in France, you never know. But he's got to shoot it. He's got to show it. I don't think it'll happen his rookie season, but as he develops, you know, year 2, year 3 into that guy, and he can show, hey, I can score easily 18, 20 just by being a threat from 3-point range. Think of like a Tyler Hero. Think of like a, you know, the type of player that just demands attention from 3-point range. That gets you on the court as well. So the cool thing is we have like the two extremes. We have the really good defender, the potentially really good shooter, how do you want to go about it? That's up to the coaching staff at that point. But I would love to see the competition happen because at 6'8", deadly shooter next to Paolo in France, that could be deadly too.
Yeah, Jett Howard is such a good shooter that every shot looks pretty, even if it doesn't go in, that it looks like it's going to go in. If he can make every shot look like it's going to go in, I already, from a fan perspective, I'm all for it. Now, this next question is from our guys, the Cord Cousins, that said, how badly does Al want us to drive Bronny so that we get LeBron? And I can tell you that it's pretty bad, man. I don't know if you know, but I was an undercover diehard LeBron James fan.
I think we're running out of time, guys. It's 10:36 p.m. here already.
I'm just kidding.
No, to answer the question, I'm all for the tank. We should tank and go get Bronny and get LeBron.
Let's do it. So what's the worst that can happen?
I would actually wouldn't mind that for one reason only, to make LeBron come play in Orlando. Can you imagine that? After all the trash he's talked about us,
he's gonna retire. And didn't he say that he's gonna retire to Maui?
Of course,
is that what he said? Did he say Maui?
The dude went from I'm going to retire to now switching his jersey number to saying that we're lucky to watch him play next season. Just LeBron things.
Yeah, it's funny just to kind of harp on it just a moment. When he announced officially that he wasn't going to retire just yet at the ESPYs, in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's a big surprise because we all thought that you were really going to retire. We believed it, man. This was it. We really thought that you're going to retire. What a blessing that you're not retiring. It's like, man,
man.
Big speech.
That's why, again, I respect him as a talent. He's one of the best to ever do it. I can't deny that. But the antics, unfortunately, take that from being the GOAT to being maybe the third or fourth best player that I've ever seen in my life. It's the antics. Like, again, you cannot lose and then just come out and say, I'm going to retire. Just so all the narrative goes from LeBron got swept to now, oh my God, this is the last time we saw the greatest. But that's what he does, man. He's got a whole squad on his payroll on ESPN to make sure that the debate continues. But realistically, I'm going to ask you, do you really think there's a debate between MJ and LeBron?
Do I think there's a debate? Yeah, I think there's a debate because people debate it all the time. And they talk about it. I think, to me, there's preferences, right? I think there's a level of mentality that LeBron doesn't have. LeBron doesn't have a Kobe mentality, a Michael Jordan mentality, and I think that if you're from that era of basketball where you watched it, the new school, they're gonna go and say it's LeBron. Here's the thing, right? And this is kind of my thing right now, right? Is a lot of these young players, and we saw this in this draft. A lot of these young players, we've heard this numerous times where they would say that Paul George is their favorite player or their GOAT. Not saying that he is the GOAT, but he's their GOAT. Like they're talking about Paul George. Like, if you're coming from that era of Michael Jordan, nobody is saying that about another player. And the biggest debate that I've heard is, how can LeBron James be the most dominant player or be the greatest of all time when during his tenure he wasn't even the best player? Kind of talking about Steph Curry, and that was a debate that I've heard numerous times that made me think, like, you're right. You're 100% right.
It's not even that. It's just been a few dudes, right? So you got Kobe for a while. Like you when he was really young. Is Kobe better or is LeBron better? Kobe at the time was better. Then you transition, and then you got, again, the KD Steph era. Like, it's debatable. Then Giannis came aboard, and you talk about Giannis. Is he the best? So it's like you've had this career, but there's always been dudes that have been really close to you. And to your point, and Steph, to change the game and during your timeline. On top of that, he beat you a bunch of times in the finals. Oh, better team, whatever. He beat you in the finals. So it's like, I don't know. It's tough. MJ, I was growing up. I was very young. But when MJ was playing, man, there was no debate. Like, this dude was getting to the playoffs. They were winning it all. He was averaging 30 plus a night. Like, it was a different type of dominance on the game. Like, he was that guy.
But I also believe that people won't appreciate LeBron James as much until after he retires.
Yeah.
Once he retires, I think people will appreciate him a lot more. I don't want to go on a rant of us hating on LeBron James because it's really easy to do that. I think we can do a whole entire episode on just bashing LeBron James, but he will go down as one of the greatest to ever do it. And there's always going to be a debate on who is better. But if you talk to this new generation, they're all putting their hats for Paul George. So anyways, what's next? FIBA World Cup is next. Paolo will be representing the United States, which is going to be awesome to watch. I need to get me a Paolo Banchero Team USA jersey ASAP.
Yes.
You got Franz and Mo Wagner representing Germany, Goga representing Georgia, Joe Ingles representing the Aussies. So a lot of Magic representation still happening during the off season with this international play. So a lot of things to be excited for. October 2nd will be Media Day. October 3rd to the 7th will be training camp, and October 10th through the 20th will be NBA preseason. And we're right back at it, man. Right back to the grind of the NBA season. Off season feels like it's kind of dragging a little bit now that everything's kind of settling down, but hopefully this international FIBA World Cup kind of holds us down until that time is here. So anyways, on that note, it's a wrap. I appreciate everyone for listening, and we'll catch you guys next week.
For all the latest Magic news and updates, visit OrlandoMagicHQ.com and follow us on Instagram at OrlandoMagicHQ and on Twitter at OMagicHQ. Also, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your favorite listening platform.